Durant recently said he's tired of finishing second. He was second behind Greg Oden in terms of high school prospects rated nationally. And when it came time for the draft, well, Greg Oden went first, and Durant obviously second in the NBA draft. And his NBA career came close, but finished second in 2012 as they lost in 5 games to the Heat in the NBA Finals. And he's come close, but he's finished second in the last 4 years in the MVP voting to LeBron James. This year he wants to finish first.
When looking through NBA history, doing cross-era comparisons is nearly impossible. There's different play styles, different players, the pace, the tempo, the overall game flow. It's always different from era to era. But one constant through line for the last 75 years is at the end of the year, you have a champion as well as a runner-up.
If you ain't first, you're last.
When looking at the NBA's history, you have someone like Bill Russell compared to Wilt Chamberlain, which is a 1-2 dynamic. In baseball, you have the Yankees and Red Sox. In golf, you had Tiger and Phil. And probably the best example of this is the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals. Being second place is definitely very impressive and admirable, but being number one makes you a legend and puts you in a different tier of overall sports greatness. Now, when talking about the 1-2 dynamic, the latest incarnation of this is LeBron James versus Kevin Durant, two all-time great small forwards who for the past 15 years have been compared, debated, as well as dissected for thousands of sports debates. And even with both these players being all-time great legends, there's always been a big gap between LeBron James as well as Kevin Durant. As LeBron coming into the league 4 years earlier, accolades-wise, he was always ahead of KD in MVPs, All-Star games, All-NBA teams, All-Defensive teams, Finals MVPs, as well as championships. In terms of overall accolades, these two players have not once been comparable. Now, one thing for both these players that is comparable and eerily similar is LeBron's move to Miami and KD's move to Golden State. And before you guys get mad, yes, they were different, and KD's move was definitely worse. But looking at the overall net results, both guys doing those moves put the NBA's power out of balance and created a dominant super team that won back-to-back championships. And I don't think KD will ever admit this, but going to Golden State, that was looking at LeBron's blueprint that he had done 7 years prior. But unlike LeBron James, the big difference in this move was that Kevin Durant went to an established team that had already won championships. LeBron James, unlike Kevin Durant, he built the Heat, he built the Cavs, as well as the Lakers. And with all those teams, he won at least one championship and multiple playoff series. And one very important note is LeBron on all those teams was the best player as well as the most valuable. As for Kevin Durant in Golden State, he wasn't the most valuable or important piece. He was definitely the most deadly weapon, but once again Golden State, they're already champions, and they were a loaded team before KD got there. Looking at LeBron's move to Miami, before he got there, that team had only won 47 games and hadn't won a playoff series since the 2006 Finals. Looking at Cleveland in 2014, they won 33 games and hadn't won a playoff series since LeBron left in 2010. And even looking at the Lakers, they were poverty before LeBron got there, only winning 35 games and not winning a playoff series in 7 years. That is the biggest difference in the world when comparing Kevin Durant as well as LeBron James. It's not scoring ability, passing ability, not even basketball IQ. It's how they approach winning, how they build teams, and stack the deck in their favor. And I'm not the biggest LeBron James fan, but you gotta give him credit. He won everywhere he went, and by year 2, had delivered all those teams at least one championship. And not once in Cleveland, LA, or Miami did he request a trade or leave a team over his contract was up. In that respect, LeBron James couldn't be more different than one Kevin Durant.
We build different, dog. We build different. Keep going. Keep going.
And if you want to talk KD versus LeBron debates, back in 2017, 2016, even 2018, I would at the very least entertain them. But now, 5-6 years later, I'm not entertaining those debates in the slightest. As once again, KD's spineless move to ask for a trade from Brooklyn is entirely his fault and his own doing. And once again, LeBron James, he would never and has never done this. Someone like Steph Curry's never done it, Giannis never did it, and most NBA superstars and all-time great legends never did this in their playing careers. And even looking past the basketball court, when you look at the NBA media in the past 10, 15, even 20 years, who've been the two most criticized players in all of the NBA? It's been Kevin Durant as well as LeBron James. And LeBron really for his entire career has been dissected and critiqued every day, 365 days a year. And his biggest hater, Skip Bayless, for the past 15 years has gone on TV every day trying to downplay him, trying to bait him, and just flat out disrespect him on national television. Now during that time period, LeBron James has responded to Skip a total of 0 times.
Take me out, coach.
Oh, we ain't gonna talk about this.
Take me out. It's my turn. You told me it was my turn.
Skip Bayless by far is the biggest NBA media troll, and not once has LeBron responded to him and taken the bait. If I was an NBA GM and I had a franchise superstar player who was highly critiqued, that's the mindset I want them to have, block out all the noise, focus on winning and getting titles. And for the past 20 years, LeBron James has done just that. Compared to Kevin Durant, when it comes to Twitter, Instagram, and his social media in general, responds to every troll or any critique by any media member. If you're looking at both LeBron and KD off the basketball court, this is one of their biggest differences in terms of overall mindset. LeBron's mind is a steel trap and is 0 dark 30 virtually all the time, compared to Kevin Durant, who's an open book and lets 13-year-olds troll him and live rent-free in his head. And looking at more of on-the-court play and activity, when it comes to LeBron James, he's very savvy on the business side of basketball. When it comes to signing contracts, since his days in Miami, he signed short deals with player options. Looking at his contract in LA, it was a 4-year deal, but after year 2, he had a player option, which he did opt into. And why LeBron doing that is so smart is because individually, that gives him power as well as leverage over the organization. Now for Kevin Durant, when he signed in Brooklyn, he signed a 4-year deal worth nearly $170 million. And in that deal, there was no player option after year 2 or even year 3. And that right there is one of, if not the biggest mistakes in Kevin Durant's entire career. Now, with that finally being said, that is one of these smaller details, but overall in summary, both LeBron and KD are great basketball players. When it comes to overall mindset, how they approach the game on and off the court, LeBron James in that respect is far superior, and even at age 38, is still on par with the prime Kevin Durant.